Hi, I'm Patrick Giguère with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to this video. Thank you for tuning in. This is my October 2022 monthly video, so it's my monthly astrological forecast and analysis for the month of October 2022. I'm going to go into what to expect for this month and why it's all happening. I want to discuss what the deeper meaning behind personal and world events are. And I want to talk about the alchemy that runs through it all. So if you're not familiar with the concept of alchemy, it's all about transformation, and it's all about transformation that facilitates evolution, that helps us to individually and collectively work our way up the evolutionary ladder. And really at the core of it, it's about making lemonade out of the lemons, figuratively, that life gives us. We all have challenges in life. We all have different types of challenges. Everybody's life is different, and we have a destiny to deal with and possibly master and overcome certain challenges. Everybody's life's different, so we all have a different sort of an alchemy to work. So we have different types of lead that we can turn into gold in our lives. So we're always doing this, and life, the universe, the force that people have called God, it all requires us to evolve. And if we stop evolving, we get taken out of this. We leave this 3D world, because the 3D world, I call it Earth School. We're here to work the syllabus and finally graduate and become teaching assistants. And when people refer to ascended masters and perfected immortals and guardian angels and elves, that's what they're referring to. They're referring to humans who've graduated from Earth School. So that's what we're all striving towards. So that's what the alchemy is all about. So October 2022. This is going to be an interesting month. This is going to be a month to remember. It's basically really the kickoff for the rest of this decade. This decade is going to be massively transformative for the world and for all of us individually. I feel like I've been waiting my whole life for this, so I'm very excited. In this month, this is going to be a break in the boredom. If you watch my channel, or if you know me, I'm always talking about, basically the boredom of modern Western life. We're ruled by boredom, because when you make everything boring, when you make everything routine, and I'm talking about, basically the puppet masters in our world, the principals, the investors who, they own the government, they fund the universities, they control the big companies, they control media, they sponsor mainstream media. People on that level, especially for the last 75 years since the end of World War II, they've been using boredom as a manipulation tool. So they've sucked the adventure, the magic, and the excitement out of everything. And this has been going on in, the whole, really the Christian era. The pagan world was full of magic, it was full of wonder, it was full of, what's the other word I'm looking for? Wonder, magic, I guess that was it. So yeah, the pagan world was full of, enchantment, wonder, and magic. And, the churches couldn't get rid of it all at once, but they started chipping away at it. It's like how the churchmen taught people that, Satan lived out in the wilderness. Don't go in the forest, don't go in the wilderness. A demon will eat your soul. It's like, it's bad enough Satan is hiding under your bed at any given moment. It's like, if you go in the woods, that's where all the demons live. That's what they taught people. So they started taking the wonder and the enchantment and the magic out of nature. Well, they didn't really take it out of nature, but they created that perception. They started taking the wonder, magic, and enchantment out of people's view of nature. And then if you take it another step, they didn't take it, people went along with their cues and their prompts. That's really the way you should put it. Because otherwise we're just victims of, of monotheism, of the monotheistic churches. Christianity, Islam, Judaism. And I think Buddhism's kind of part of the family too. So, people who have sponsored and controlled these churches, they've slowly been trying to work the boredom into our consciousness. After World War II, they consolidated a lot of power and they started using boredom. So they took the adventure out of everything. They made everything so safe that, the world was made basically nauseatingly safe. I've seen this in my own life where it's just like, oh, don't do that. That makes your mother nervous. You could get killed. It's like there's this whole thing where, and I'm not being disparaging to women or mothers, but it's like the mommies have slowly been taking the world over and basically taking the fun out of things, taking the risk out of life, while trying to legislate the risk out of life. So boredom is this tool of control and manipulation, because when there's no adventure, when there's no magic, when there's no risk, when you take risks, bad things can happen to you, but then amazing things can happen to you when you succeed and you get these huge payoffs. So little by little, the world has just become this creamy middle. Especially here in America, and in the Western world, Canada, Australia, Western Europe. Everything is just so fucking safe. And, there's so many societal safety nets in place, which sometimes people fall on hard times and they need help. But the way I always felt growing up was that the worst thing that can happen to you, especially here in America, is that your mommy, daddy, aunties, uncles, friends, and neighbors, and college friends they're not going to think you're a great American success story, and they're going to think you're a loser because your life-size Barbie house is not as nice as their life-size Barbie house. So, yeah, we've been living in this world that bores people to tears, and I don't think most people know it, but that's why alcohol is sold on every street corner. That's why, Christ, half the country is stoned, smoking weed at any given time. That's why people are shopaholics. They're like chronic shoppers, and there's so much consumer debt. They're all trying to feel something. And even, when you get like these Wolf of Wall Street types and you get these investment guys that are swindling people for money and getting rich off of it, just becomes a game. What they all have in common is they can't feel anything. And then with the, similarly with just the abundance of pornography out there, free pornography out there, and it's becoming a thing. If you look into not just psychological journals, but just in news stories, they talk about how severe porn addiction is with people. People can't get aroused by whatever type of adult they're attracted to. Whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. The human contact isn't enough for people anymore, and they've got to watch all this crazy porn, and they have all these crazy fetishes, and they have to buy all these props. They're numb and they can't feel anything because life has just gotten so fucking boring, and there's a rational, scientific explanation for everything. And it's like, I'm a big believer in science. Science has improved our quality of life immensely. But what it's done is in the minds of many people, it has eliminated the possibility that there are things we don't understand, that there are amazing, wonderful, exciting, mysterious things that we don't understand. So it's created this perception in people that once you graduate from college and you buy the house and your mommy approves of your house, the size of it, the quality of the shit you filled it with, that your learning process is over. It's like, please your parents, get the degree, get the job, get the house. You don't have to learn anything anymore because you have all the stuff. Well, it makes people numb. So the point of that whole rambling tangent is that we're getting towards the end of we're getting towards the end of this boredom that has been literally killing the world. It's killing people. It's driving people to kill the natural world because they think the answer to their numbness and their depression is just to buy more shit. So you gotta cut more trees down. You gotta dig more lithium mines, with this whole scam of this electric car and electric bike revolution that's supposedly teaching big oil a lesson. Well, big oil is one of the biggest investors. And all these electric devices are just oil powered. The plants are burning fucking oil and coal. So, yeah, people think the world, the natural world is getting killed because people think they just need more to buy more shit and get bigger houses. So there's like more oil fields, more lithium mines, more factories, more housing developments. People have this material addiction because they're just so bored and numb. So the boredom it's on its way out. We're not going to be bored again. I don't think like we have been, especially, in the last 75 years. I don't think we'll ever be that bored again. This October is going to be probably I'd say the most exciting month of 2022. 2022 is finally going to start. 2022, like 2021, was just totally dragging ass. We're in this weird, cooties world. The world of the cooties, the fear of the cooties, and the, being saved and redeemed by the needlecraft and the rooster booster. Almost 3 years now. It's like it's been dragging, and it's like, oh my God, why can't people fucking see what's going on and how much money people are making off all this hysteria, and all this untested needlecraft that's just making people keel over and making people sick. So the breakthrough is starting, but the breakthrough is not going to be. It's not going to be the most pleasant, it's going to make people worry. People are going to get scared. People are already scared. The media is scaring the shit out of people. A big rebalancing is starting. The rebalancing has been rolling for almost 3 years since the beginning of 2020. Now it's going to be apparent that this rebalance is going on. And the 2020s are going to be a decade of rebalancing for the world. We need it badly. We're going to have, you get into the 2030s, it's going to be a different world. I think by 2027, institutions are going to have, if not collapse, they'll be on their way to collapse. 2027 is going to be a big year for institutional collapse of hierarchy. So I wrote down a little quote. I quoted myself here a couple weeks ago when I was thinking about this video. So, quote, "We've been whacked out delusional gold diggers for many, many years, and the world is going to rebalance very quickly. It will be shocking. We've been hopelessly lost in prettiness. We're rug sweepers, in denial, who sweep uncomfortable thoughts and emotions and realities under the rug." So this is the way we've been living. This is what the American dream has been running on since the end of the 1950s, People think that, the Great Depression ended because of World War II. World War II actually created a massive recession. And then by the end of the 50s, a deal was worked out where the Nazis could deposit their hidden loot on Wall Street. And I also think in the banks in the city of London. So all of a sudden there was all this cheap credit. So, American houses, all of a sudden everyone had 2 cars, all the new appliances, all the new toys. Yeah, World War II didn't give us that. It was Nazi loot that padded the banks' balance sheets and allowed them to offer cheap credit to consumers. So this whole bigger is better, more is better, keeping up with the Joneses world, it's gonna kind of start screeching to a halt. And this is gonna be tough for a lot of people because we've been raised to think that keeping up with the Joneses is a reason for living. So we're gonna have to go through this. We're not gonna, we're not gonna have mass starvation. We're not gonna have a nuclear holocaust. Food production is not just gonna stop all of a sudden, but this is gonna be inflation. There's gonna be big inflation. Prices are gonna go up. Different companies are gonna fold, and things you used to be able to buy, they're going to go away. So it's going to be something here. And this month is, the dominating, really the most prominent events this month are going to be October the 25th. It's going to be a solar eclipse in Libra, conjunct Venus. Having that eclipse conjuncting and eclipsing Venus as well as the Sun, that's pretty damn huge. And I'm going to get into why, but it's not good news for the economy, I have to say. I don't wish for people to be worried, to be scared about their finances or their investments, but if you know me, I'm not a sugarcoater. You can probably tell. If you just tuned in, you've been watching this video for the last 20 minutes, you can probably tell I'm not a sugarcoater. So, yeah, the economy is going to struggle here. Probably going to be into the spring. We're talking like probably May is going to be some economic drama. End of this month into May. And there's going to be different types of drama running simultaneously. I think when we get to January, just because of cold and flu season, it's where here in the northern hemisphere and these latitudes, we're talking. So I'm in North Carolina. I'm at like 34 degrees north latitude. Here and up through the 40s. So the northern half of the U.S. and then into Canada. That's when the winter really sets in. I grew up in Massachusetts. The snow really doesn't start falling till January. The cold doesn't fully set in. So that cold sets in. There's a damn good chance that the side effects from the needlecraft and the rooster boosters, damn good chance those side effects are going to be setting in, and people who had those administered are going to be suffering. So, yeah, anyway, the eclipse on the 25th of October in Libra, eclipsing Venus as well as the Sun. That's going to kick off some economic drama. And then on the 30th, with Mars going retrograde, 0 degrees of Gemini, in the lunar mansion, the constellation of Prometheus, that's a huge-ass deal. So, right now, you turn on the news, TV, internet, whatever the hell, the radio. The global elite, they're still ambitious. They're keeping up a facade of confidence. But they're absolutely shitting their pants right now. And, last month, in September, there was a very encouraging article, I thought. It was very quiet, it was low-key, but Bill Gates was saying, well, the world's not where I thought it was with the cooties emergency and the preparation and the electric cars and the this and the carbon. So things aren't going Bill Gates' way right now. So that's very encouraging, and he's admitted it, but very, very demurely, very quietly, in a very low-key way. Yeah, so these people are shitting their pants because they've pretty much played all their cards and it's not panning out. So I think pretty soon here you're going to see these people's misdeeds, the politicians and the elite, the financial and corporate elite who control them. More and more of their misdeeds are going to be revealed. So some startling, surprising information is going to come out of the woodwork. Well, surprising for a lot of people. I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's not because I'm better or more intelligent. I've just lived a different life. I've known about a lot of things ahead of time. This whole thing with the cooties emergency, and then the needlecraft and the rooster boosters. A guy told me about that in 2005, in like April 2005. So I've been waiting for a long time. It caused me to kind of crack up in in like 2013. Waiting for that, waiting for the economy to go slip sliding, waiting for this whole, socialist, communist, fascist takeover to be attempted. I was waiting for a long time, and I got a little too deep into it, and I cracked up for better part of a year. But that was 10 years ago, and feeling pretty damn good now. All right, what else do we have? Yeah, so another point, I guess, in this little summary here. Take special care not to fall into emotional traps. So watch the emotional manipulation this month and through the rest of the year and into next year. Watch the damn emotional manipulation. The media, the elites behind them who sponsor the media, and then the politicians who are the marionette puppets, on the screen in the media. They're going to throw out sad stories to fucking pluck your heartstrings, make you feel guilty, make you feel sympathetic. Don't fall for it, because they're going to try to manipulate your emotions to get you to do things you wouldn't normally do. Like taking experimental remedies that have not been tested. So watch this. I think sympathy is a filthy, dirty word. I'm all about empathy. I'm all about appreciating what people are going through and holding the right space for them, and treating them kindly with the understanding of what it is that they're going through. Sympathy, on the other hand, I just cannot get behind. Sympathy, when you go into the etymology, the roots of the word, it's I'm not great at this one. It's Greek. It basically means one with sickness. So basically you become one with somebody's emotional dis-ease or even physical dis-ease, because sim, it's like a symphony. Sympathy, what's another word? The sim basically means like a unity, like a oneness. And then the pathy comes from the pathos. Pathos means sickness. So one with the sickness or the dis-ease. I don't get one with other people's sickness or dis-ease, because I've had enough dis-ease to cope with in various ways. So I appreciate what people are going through, but I don't like to share people's dis-ease with them. I appreciate what they're going through, and I'm happy to help people, but I don't, I don't sync up with it. So be careful of that, because sympathy is a great tool of manipulation. It gets you to do things you wouldn't normally do. Beware false peacemakers. That's a big thing this month and for the rest of the year and into next year. Beware of the false peacemakers, especially of the billionaire self-appointed world leader variety. So of course we're talking Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is like, I was listening to basically a channel, and she was saying, yeah, he's the reincarnation of Thomas Edison. I thought that was brilliant because, Thomas Edison was a mean fucker, and he was always undermining Nikola Tesla. So Nikola Tesla wanted to give free energy and all kinds of free technologies, completely renewable technologies to the world over 100 years ago. Edison was working for the robber barons like J.D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, and he was using propaganda, just shifty lawyers and loopholes in the legal system to just always trying to undermine and ruin Nikola Tesla. So yeah, Elon Musk is he's a dirty little fucker. He's an egomaniac, and he wants to be a world leader, and he thinks he's enlightened. So don't listen to these fucking people. Jeff Bezos gets in on this a little bit, but he really doesn't hide his selfishness, and I can respect that. It's like a Donald Trump. He doesn't hide that he's an asshole. Whereas, a lot of the people who are Trump's enemies, they hide that they're assholes, and they try to act like they're your friend and that they're men and women of the people. So yeah, watch these false peacemakers. They might roll Greta Thunberg back out. She is a case of child abuse. They've taken this minor with Asperger's and severe anxiety, and rolled her out in front of a TV, and they just wind her up and point her in a direction. And her mother was a wannabe celebrity in Sweden that never made it. She was on like the European versions of what are those shows like America's Got Talent, that kind of like these talent shows where you sing or you dance or you do whatever the hell you do to try to get picked up by a record label. Her tries at celebrity never worked out. So you can bet your ass she's behind Greta. So Greta's like a child celebrity, or like a one of these Little Miss Sunshine pageant kind of girls, like John Benet Ramsey, like a Honey Boo Boo. So yeah, and the other thing too, in this long summary, as more information comes out, I think a lot of world leaders are going to be strongly affected by this. I think when you look at the especially this Mars retrograde and this eclipse, where all that's taking place, just looking at this, I think Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Xi Jinping, who's the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party and the dictator of China, he's kind of worshipped as a god at this point, like the leaders of North Korea. They're going to suffer some major setbacks. They're going to be fucking furious. Damn good chance Joe Biden's going to the hospital. I don't wish any illness or death on the guy, but he's been very sick for a long time. In saying that, I say that as dispassionately as if I walk outside and it's overcast and there are these like ominous dark gray storm clouds, and I'm like, oh, I think it's going to rain and thunder. It's that obvious and it's that simple. Because I don't take a side in politics. I don't believe in politics. Politics are a Roman imperial divide and conquer strategy. It's totally juvenile. It puts people back into a 5th grade schoolyard mentality. And the easiest way for people to feel better about themselves is to make fun of other people. And politics is all about that. Especially since Donald Trump came onto the scene. It's really turned people juvenile. So yeah, I don't say that about Joe Biden, about what is likely going to happen with his health with any sort of passion. It's just what's going on. So he may either get very sick and have to resign. He may pass away. I'm not sure. And then Kamala Harris, she can be like Daenerys Targaryen, like queen for 10 minutes. She's not going to get taken out. She's just going to suffer some kind of disgrace, or her handlers are going to remove her. Because you got to remember, Biden and Harris were the most despised, most unpopular candidates in the Democratic primary in 2016. They were the bottom two. Nobody wanted them, but they were Wall Street's candidates. Well, Joe Biden was Wall Street's guy because so many of these banks are incorporated in Delaware, just like the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve, the IRS. Yeah, Delaware is like a big tax shelter, and he was a senator there for 40 plus years. Kamala Harris was an opportunity. What the hell do they call that? Like intersection politics? It's like if you're a woman and you're, a non-Caucasian, either of those categories will make you a hot commodity. And I think gay is the other hot commodity in politics. So if you identify as more than one of those categories, so female, gay, non-Caucasian, you're basically a hot commodity. And both of the parties want you to join them because the idea is you will pull people who identify with those other categories in as voters for that party. She's a disaster too. Her mouth is a disaster. She has, cancer in it's her second house of speech with Mars in there. Mars hates being in Cancer. Doesn't want to deal with emotions. So she's very emotional. She's volatile. She says crazy shit. They don't let her speak very much on camera. They don't like her ad-libbing. So she's never going to comfortably settle into the presidency. She's going to have just one disaster after another. She's always going to be defending herself. She's going to have to defend herself more from her own party than from the Republicans. Because, I think she was basically getting kickbacks from the Prison Corporation of America when she was a prosecuting attorney for the city of Oakland, California. She put hundreds of African Americans in jail for petty marijuana possession. So she's not liked by that community, by the African American community. And she's a total opportunist. When she was sworn into the Senate, she was the first Indian American senator, and then when she became VP, she was magically the first African American VP. So she's an opportunist, total shill. And then the other thing too, she has Rahu in her first house on her ascendant degree. If you have Rahu in the first house, you have to, everything you have in life, you have to earn on your own. You can't just get things handed to you because you have good connections, you have connected parents, you have powerful friends. You have to earn it. You can't ride people's coattails. So she will have ridden Joe Biden's coattails into the presidency. So the presidency is going to blow up in her face. I think she's even dreading it. She was probably blackmailed into being his running mate because they don't like each other. And then Xi Jinping, so General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, ruler of China. Well, I mean the apparent ruler. He has a whole deep state behind him. He's been doing sneaky shit overseas. He's building an empire, an economic military empire, just like the Americans built after World War II, building bases all over the world, bribing leaders, world leaders, so that they can basically take their countries over, just like the American Empire did. So he's been doing all kinds of things overseas. I think he's working together with the politicians here, with this whole campaign behind the cooties hysteria and the needlecraft and the rooster booster. So a lot of this shit somehow is going to come to light. I don't know how. But again, I have to point out, these will not be the undisputable headlines. Was it indisputable? I think indisputable and then undisputed. Yeah. So, you know, we won't have the indisputable headlines that we grew up with. You know, it won't be like, Japanese Empire bombs Pearl Harbor. Okay, everyone go to war. Because that's the indisputable headlines over the years. They serve the purpose of mobilizing people and getting them to basically comply with a predetermined reaction and course of action. So yeah, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor. All the guys go join the military. Get ready to have a big bloody war. U.S. drops the bomb on Japan. Japan surrenders. You know, just for examples. We're not going to have those headlines or, you know, World Trade Towers get destroyed by semi-literate Arab terrorists, you know what I mean, who took flying lessons and told the instructors they just wanted to fly, they didn't want to know how to land. People aren't reacting to the headlines like that. 30% of the population is. Another 30% of the population doesn't believe a word that the headlines say. And then the 40% in the middle are not sure, and they kind of go back and forth. So people call this the consensus, and it's like, we used to have a consensus, and it's like, you used to have fucking brainwashing. And people were like Pavlov's dogs, salivating whenever they heard a bell ring. So whenever the media said, think this and do this, everyone was like, oh, I'm going to go think that and do that. Well, those days are over. So, yeah. This is not going to be a month or a year or next year is not going to be a year where Donald Trump gets sworn in by Christmas with Jesus at his side, or Bernie Sanders gets sworn in by Martin Luther King Day. You know, it's like, it ain't going to work like that. You're not going to have mass conformity like you did after World War II ever again. So, yeah. But some stuff's going to come out about these people. All right. That's a long summary, but it's an important month. I'm all tongue-tied today. All right, so let's get into the specific days here. All right, so first big one here. First one of note, October 2nd. So Mercury goes direct, the Mercury retrograde ends, Mercury stops, and it starts, from our point of view, starts moving forward again. In the lunar mansion of Hymenaeus, it's a sun-ruled constellation. Hymenaeus was like a youthful god of love and music and song. All about the joy of relationships, friendships, intimate relationships, you know, all that stuff. All about harmony. Hymenaeus was a martyr to love. So like I said, don't be a martyr to love. Our love can be manipulated, can be used to manipulate us. So be careful of that. Have boundaries. What we usually think is love is like a lack of boundaries. So, you know, be aware of that. So Mercury goes direct there. Another important thing, you know, yeah, so about the second, and then for a few days after, well, actually quite some time. Let me check the degrees here. Yeah. So, yeah, really for the whole month, you know, you're going to have Saturn and Uranus square. So Saturn until what day? And Saturn comes out of retrograde on the 23rd. Saturn's in retrograde, 24 degrees of Capricorn until the 23rd. It's going to be at 24 degrees the whole time anyway. Uranus, also retrograde, 24 degrees of Aries. So they're 90 degrees apart, so they're squared. Yeah, Uranus stays in retrograde until January, towards the end of January. So Saturn, Uranus squared within a degree for the whole month, but especially the beginning of the month. They're squared, same degree, 90 degrees. That's a big deal. That's a big nope, I think, for the global elite. So Aries, where Uranus is leadership. Uranus is all about overturning things and like weird and new innovation. Saturn is limitation. Saturn is government, but it's also limitation. It's restrictions, healthy limitation and restriction. And Saturn retrograde is even stronger, and it is extremely strong because it's in Capricorn, its home sign. So it's like the forces of restriction in the universe, Capricorn, with Saturn there looking 90 degrees away, Uranus and Aries. This is like a big nope to the global elite. It's like, oh, you want to do all this crazy shit and you want to turn people into medical experiments, and you want to, you Nazis want, like Klaus Schwab, you want to finish off the job in Russia that you couldn't pull off in the 1940s. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do a regime change in Russia, like you did in Iraq. That's not going to happen. So that's very encouraging. Saturn is in the lunar mansion of the muses, so the beings who inspired the nymphs, who inspired poets, writers, musicians. Who am I forgetting? Poets, writers, musicians, artists. And then Uranus is in Hades. So Hades is the god of the underworld. It's like all the harsh realities that have to be dealt with. So yeah, the leaders, Aries, Uranus, and Hades, they're kind of being defeated by the forces of restriction in the universe, Capricorn and Saturn. But then you get this thing with the muses where it's like people are going to increasingly start publishing music and art and different works of writing against them. So pretty neat. October the 8th, Pluto goes direct. Pluto was retrograde for several months. It's going direct almost at 2 degrees of Capricorn. So it's interesting. It's within 2 degrees of the cardinal cross. I think this could have some effect kind of on activating the cardinal cross. So the cardinal cross, it's 0 degrees of Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, and Libra. The cardinal signs, which form a cross, they're all 90 degrees apart, they're all about initiating change. So cardinal signs initiate change. Fixed signs are all about maintaining the status quo and holding on to things. And then the mutable signs, they wind things down and they change things. So this activating this cardinal cross, it's kind of like kickstarting change in the world. So it affects Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, Libra. So that's pretty neat. Pluto, as it goes direct within Capricorn, it's within the lunar mansion of Natura. So Natura is ruled by the sun. It's the Natura is a goddess, is the personification of the power of nature and the healing and the generative power of nature. So that's pretty neat. We need some of that. It has a lot to do with humanitarianism. Not false corporate charity humanitarianism, but the real thing that people don't do for a virtue's sake praise. They just do it. They don't care who's looking. And then it's pretty neat. The animal for Natura is the mongoose. So the mongoose, pretty cool. It's a fierce little rodent that can actually kill vipers. It can kill venomous snakes when it's hungry enough, or if it's threatened. If its little babies are threatened, another mongoose is threatened. So pretty neat. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of venom that needs to be neutralized. Capricorn, it deals with hierarchy, government, figures of authority. For America, it's the second house of wealth and business leaders. So yeah, there's a lot of poison in the business world that needs to be neutralized. A lot of greed and poison, and And even basically deception. And the second house is also speech. So it's like there's a lot of shit that comes out of America's mouth, a lot of deceptive shit. And this is done by, you know, the whole intelligence apparatus, which includes mainstream media and corporate PR. Okay, real quick, full moon October the 9th, 22 degrees of Pisces in the lunar mansion of Revati, aka Hermea. So basically it's a feminine version of Hermes, the messenger of the gods. It's a Mercury-ruled lunar mansion. So this, you know, a full moon, people consider it, you know, it's a birth, where basically something manifests, or it comes into manifestation, whereas the new moon was where something was conceived. Another way you can look at full moons, it's a negotiation between sun and moon. So sun is a macrocosm, a larger version of the soul. The moon is a macrocosm of the mind. So it's a negotiation between sun and mind. And during a full moon, sun and moon are in opposite signs at the same degree. So they're opposing one another. So this word opposition, it deals with tension, it deals with antagonism. So basically the sun and moon are like pulling in different directions because they're in different signs. So different themes. So they're having a tug of war, basically. So a full moon in Pisces means you got a sun in Virgo. So Pisces, you know, and especially Hermea, aka Revati, it's all about spirituality, kindness, what else? You know, intuition, and you know, it can be like spiritual healing, energetic healing. And cool thing about Hermea, aka Revati, it's the most grounded, non-addictive part of Pisces. You know, Pisces and Hermea deal with spiritual understanding too. Now across from that, you got a sun in Soul, a constellation, a lunar mansion called Soul in Virgo. So the sun is all about, you give yourself what you need. And, you know, you see to your own happiness and fulfillment. So it's basically the sun and moon are having this tug of war. Take care of yourself versus take care of other people. So beware, again, beware of the sad stories in the media where, you know, they're using identity politics, racial politics, or just any form of like guilt and shame to try to manipulate your emotions. And then October the 16th, Mercury comes out of the shadow degrees. And on the same day, Mars comes to 0 degrees Gemini. This is the degree it's going to retrograde at on the 31st. So Mars is just going to sit there from 15 days before it retrogrades. 0 degrees of Gemini, the lunar mansion is Prometheus. Prometheus is a Mars-ruled lunar mansion. Prometheus it's kind of like the Nagas. He's like Loki, Rahu, Lucifer. He's the trickster in the pantheon. And in the Greek mythology, basically Zeus was kind of abusing humanity. And they didn't have the knowledge of fire. So Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. It's like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The serpent was basically a teacher who was trying to help the humans get out from under Jehovah's narcissistic manipulation. You know, so the serpent was cursed for trying to help Adam and Eve in that story. So Prometheus was chained to a rock by Zeus, and an eagle would peck his liver out and eat it, and it would regenerate. And this would just happen over and over. And Hercules rescued him. But the point is, Prometheus, Rahu, Loki, Lucifer, they deal with hidden, forbidden knowledge that empowers people. It's the type of knowledge, if you don't have it, you're easily manipulated by someone, intellectually and emotionally. So the information is going to start coming. October 23rd, Saturn goes direct. Saturn's retrograde ends. So very good. Mars again. It's still at that 24 degrees of Capricorn in the Muses. So it's basically, that Saturn started in Aquarius and retrograded back to Capricorn. So to me that was all about the will of the people, the anger of the people, the indignation of the people. Aquarius going back to Capricorn, the sign of government and authority. So it's like, it's slowly feeding rebellion. Saturn going direct into Muses, it's like, it's Mars ruled, so there's vitality. There's like a will to fight within it. And in the Muses, it's all types of art and writing and publication. So more and more people are going to start resisting the mainstream narratives here. And then on that same day, Sun and Moon, they're conjunct 6 degrees Libra, 1 degree away from the eclipse degree. So Venus is combust. Planets are combust when they conjunct the Sun, except for Mercury. They get burned. So Venus is sensuality, materiality, wealth, our ability to enjoy resources, our ability to enjoy relationships, sexuality, friendships, social activity. All that stuff is getting burned by the Sun. It's not getting destroyed, but the soul is fully focused on it. And the soul is basically saying, all of your wealth, your resources, and your relationships, business relationships, intimate relationships, family, friendships, that are fake, that are operating on denial, all of anything that's not real, the soul is going to burn away. So our economy, for example, based on a bunch of word games and a bunch of numbers games, and it's going to have to be corrected at some point. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. And maybe the majority of the wealth out there is fake, potentially. This is going to have to be rebalanced at some point, I think sooner than we think. And, another thing too, within authenticity in relationships, a thing I saw during the whole cooties emergency, when people couldn't fly, they couldn't get on planes and go on vacation, I saw a lot of marriages and engagements just totally blow up, because a lot of people, to keep their relationships together, to be able to stand each other, they had to be jet setting like every few months, just as a distraction, because they really didn't like each other fundamentally. So yeah, more of this going on. So big rebalance. When the Sun combusts a planet, when they're conjunct, you have to get real very quickly. The Sun will not allow anything that planet deals with to be phony baloney, fake nonsense. I have 3 planets combust myself, so it's like, you got to get on the soul's page when something's combust. Okay, coming down to it, October the 25th, solar eclipse, 7 degrees of Libra. In Western, it's 1 degree of Scorpio. So, not only will the Sun be eclipsed, visible in Europe, incidentally. So wherever an eclipse is visible, that's where it's the strongest. That's where the effects are most strongly felt. So all of the themes of the sign that the eclipse takes place in and the planets potentially involved, wherever that eclipse is most visible, those themes are most strongly at work and most strongly felt. So visible in Europe, it's like the entirety of Europe, like all the way into Russia, I think up to the Ural Mountains. The Ural Mountains are where Europe ends and Asia begins. It's where Siberia starts. So there's a lot of shit going on in Europe. The Chinese are trying to take Europe over, by stealth, financially and commercially. You've got this whole proxy war against Russia because Russia dares, be independent and tell itself what to do. All the American and British bankers and corporations want to go in there and have a regime change and put in a puppet ruler like Boris Yeltsin after the Soviet Union fell, so they can rape the resources and the wealth of Russia. Well, it's not going to happen, but, the Nazis who control NATO and the European Central Bank and the World Economic Forum and all those cuddly types are trying. So, yeah. Solar eclipse in Leo. So yeah, solar eclipse in Libra, 7 degrees. Sidereally 1 degree, Scorpio. Western. Venus is being eclipsed with the Sun, because on that day, they're just 1 degree apart, so they're conjunct. So, Libra is relationships, business. It's the give and take of business. It's also politics. It's the give and take of politics. All relationships, all social relationships, it's balance. I don't quite view Libra as justice. People are like, oh, Libra is the sign of justice because it has the scales for a symbol. And it's like, no. When you go back into the more ancient times, before the churches, those scales of Libra were merchant scales, where you put the coins on one side, the gold or the silver on one side, and you put whatever you're buying on the other side. You got to get them to balance. So you're doing even exchange, and that's what dealing with other people, all of our relationships, no matter what kind, are all about even exchange, give and take. My ancestors in the Germanic countries, particularly the Franks, who are the ancestors to the French people, they had a rune called Gebo. So Gebo, it looks like an X. It was all about even exchange. It dealt with many things, but even exchange was the big one. The Germanic cultures were very big into gift giving, and you did this freely, and you did it evenly. And it was all about, being true to your word and helping people out because someday you would need help. So yeah, I could go on about that rune. But yeah, so it was all about even exchange. So I don't consider Libra to be justice. I would consider that Capricorn. So yeah, this eclipse, it's basically the sun gets swallowed by Ketu. Ketu is the dragon's tail. It's the south node of the moon. Excuse me, south node of the moon. Ketu takes things away. Rahu brings something new in. Ketu takes things away. It does this so that it can basically kind of like clear the air, clear our lives, so something new can happen. Something new that levels us up, that helps us evolve. So, to me, our idea of balance and even exchange in the world is basically being called into question and being destroyed. So there's a lot of unevenness in the world right now. It's like everybody knows it's in personal relationships, but everywhere in the Western world, it's like you get taxed at least 40%. These governments have these private collection agencies like the IRS, who, through coercion and intimidation, they basically lay claim to, at least 35% of your income, of your labor. you have to work for, what, 3-4 months just to pay your taxes. So fucking shit's outrageous. And then they basically, the government, well, that's a funny thing, because the government doesn't even really take control of that tax money. That tax money goes through their hands and goes to pay the interest on the national debt, so they can take out more debt. So your taxes don't pay for any government services or benefits. So that's a whole out of balance view of things that people have. That needs to become apparent. And this whole thing of just being intimidated into coughing up almost half your income, that has to fucking end. So that's all being called into question. Just the uneven relationship between governments and the people has to be called into question and rebalanced, because they work for us. Presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, they're fucking butlers. They're the national butler. They're the head of the staff, the head of the help. We don't work for presidents, mayors, governors, senators. It's not how it is. It's like they should be constantly afraid of us. So that has to rebalance. So it's all about letting go the state of balance, or lack thereof balance, lack of balance in the world. Now in Western astrology, it's 1 degree of Scorpio. Basically there's this deep need to hang on. It's like, no, I don't want to let go. Well, it doesn't matter. So this eclipse, it's like a mix of this cardinal catalyzing changing energy and then like a fixed energy. So it's like a reluctant letting go. What else? Oh yeah. And then it takes place in the lunar mansion of Swati. So Swati is the goddess of art and music and sensuality and romance. Because Libra is the home sign of Venus. The Western name for Swati is Favonius, which is ruled by Rahu. So Favonius is like, they call it the silver-tongued one. So it's basically somebody who can come into tense situations, to disputes, and basically like broker deals between, two people who are antagonistic to each other, or two parties or factions or countries, or a group who are antagonistic to each other. So, there are definitely peacemakers and deal makers who do good things in our world, but watch out, again, watch out for somebody who's going to create some bullshit peace deal, just like after World War I, where Germany got scapegoated and made to pay reparations. So beware of some, just bleeding heart billionaire with a golden heart that just wants everything to be better, and I'll donate my own money to bring peace to this world. It's like, yeah, because you're going to make 10 times more back. Beware of that shit. So yeah. Now, another big thing with this eclipse, again, Venus is eclipsed along with the sun. So not only is the sun combusting Venus and burning away all the falsehood around our relationships, our ideas of wealth and prosperity, and our material lives, but then it's getting eclipsed by Ketu. So Ketu is like taking away what Venus values. So yeah, with this combust Venus that's also eclipsed by Ketu, this is going to get the economy, the financial markets, the stock market rocking and rolling. I think we're going to see some stock market and economic drama. And I'd say by May, we're going to come out of it. Yeah, there's going to be this winter, and then, this winter and spring, there's going to be some darkness to it, I think, unfortunately. Again, with the, the needlecraft and the rooster boosters that were taken as a safety measure against the cooties. You know, people's DNA has been corrupted, and you know, I think a lot of people are going to react. So, not the easiest winter, but you know, the world has to rebalance itself and it has to move on. And we were all given choices, especially when it came to the needlecraft. So, you know, we always have to. We have to live with our decisions. So, but yeah, Venus is eclipsed while combust by Ketu. So yeah, our material life, you know, it's like we're not going to lose everything overnight. We're not going to go back to you know, the 1800s. But the financial markets, which are a bunch of hype, you know, stock market's a giant casino. They're going to suffer. And this is going to trickle down. You know, it's like I'm an acupuncturist day to day. It's like, damn good chance I'm going to feel that, you know, because especially the town I live in, it's like a I mean, so much of the United States now is a retirement colony because, you know, what was it? 75 to 60 years ago, there was a population explosion. There was a baby boom. So the largest segment of our population is mostly retired. You know, rapidly retiring. So a lot of people who offer goods and services, small business owners, depend on retired people who are living off of investments to spend their money. So yeah, that could get challenging. I've been thinking about this. It's like, yeah, it's going to be an interesting few months. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, get ready for that. I think, too, it's like, just because Libra is politics, it's going to be political drama, scandals coming out. K2 is like, it's eating our idea of politics and how we've, you know, mindlessly followed it like a television show. So, and it's going to show us how out of balance that it's all been. So, you know, how these people have been getting rich through their political offices rather than serving us who pay their salaries. So, yeah. Okay, last day here. This is going to take me a few minutes. October the 30th, Mars goes retrograde in Gemini. So 1 degree of Gemini. Lunar mansion of Prometheus, which is Mars ruled. So Mars, it's in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, but then the smaller constellation, the lunar mansion, Prometheus, is ruled by Mars. So Prometheus stole fire from the gods to help mankind, to benefit mankind. So Prometheus basically led a rebellion against the gods. And, you know, people in politics and in people above them in the corporate and financial world, they see themselves as gods. It's like these movies, you know, they made these, there's like Gerard Butler and Morgan Freeman, Olympus Has Fallen. You know, it's like the Secret Service code word for the White House in that movie is Olympus. If you don't know Greek mythology, Mount Olympus was the home of the Greek gods, the celestial gods. So that's a window into how these people think. You know, they're pathologically egotistical. So Prometheus gave fire. So this fire, what is this fire? You know, like the mundane explanation of the myth is that Prometheus was like, you know, it's like, oh, well, humans were too stupid and primitive to know how to rub sticks together to make fire. So Prometheus flew all the way into the heavenly realm and stole some fire and gave it to humans. And then they could have cooking fires whenever they wanted it. And it's like, no. This fire, you have to go into the origin of the names of these tricksters like Prometheus. So if you look at the names Loki and Lucifer. So Lucifer is not Satan, is not the devil, is not some evil fucking guy twisting his mustache who has hooves and a pointed tail. Lucifer is a god of spiritual and intellectual illumination that basically helps us to light fire under our ass and get us to pursue whatever it is that we want out of life, and to get us to accomplish it. So there's this word in the old Indo-European, aka Aryan language, Luca. So Luca, it's, in the Latin alphabet, it's like L-U-K-K-E. Luca dealt with, it was a flash of light. It was basically, it was like the fire started by a lightning bolt. It's like when lightning lights dry dead wood on fire. Because forest fires keep forests healthy. It burns out dead wood and it burns out undergrowth so the big trees can get healthier. So this Luca, this Loki, Lucifer, Prometheus, Rahu, these tricksters, they symbolize this flash of intellectual and spiritual brilliance. It's like, consciousness. They symbolize this, when you raise your consciousness, when you have a flash of brilliance, you burn away the dead wood in your life. It's like, well, I really don't want to get bossed around by these tyrannical politicians or this church or family members who have no boundaries, who offer me all this unsolicited advice and think they know better than I do about what I need. So that is this force of this Luca, this Loki, this Lucifer, this Prometheus. It's about self-empowerment. Trickster gods are all about evolution and self-empowerment. They want you to evolve. They want you to have emotional and psychological boundaries so that you can be your own self and you don't have people all up in your business and basically like controlling your life for you. And they don't want you doing that to other people. They're like, stop giving people advice they haven't asked for. Stop taking advice from people you haven't asked for. And just live your own life. And don't let, your parents, aunties, uncles, grandparents, teachers, coaches live vicariously through you. Do what you want to do. And so this is why Lucifer was turned into the devil, because it's like if you're running a church, that's a very lucrative business. And if people aren't scared that they're going to go to hell, they're not going to subsidize your church. They're not going to listen to some, to somebody, running a church telling them what to do. They're going to be like, no, I'm going to go live my life. Thank you very much. So the churches, Christianity in particular, had to demonize this force in the universe, Lucifer. So nothing evil about it. I think there are cheesy cults where people, put on fucking eyes wide shut costumes and, do all kinds of, have orgies and maybe, perform sacrifices, but it's like, they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. So yeah, Lucifer is not some evil satanic devil. So again, this like Lucifer, Rahu, Prometheus, Loki, it's a serpent in the garden. Because the Garden of Eden was a prison, and Jehovah was a very toxic narcissist. He didn't want them knowing who they were. And he was basically keeping them blind to their sexuality, which is a huge part of their humanity. So the serpent came in and he's like, you don't have to be subservient to this fucking guy Jehovah. You can be as powerful and more powerful than him. Would you like to do that? Would you like to have some self-knowledge? Or would you just like to stay a robot, red pill or blue pill? So, yeah, Prometheus, Rahu, Loki, Lucifer, they reveal secret, hidden, and forbidden knowledge. So we're going to get a dose of this. Now this is in Gemini. Gemini is thinking, communication, it's media, it's mass media. And so that's a big deal. Mars in Gemini is scattered. It's scattered energy. Once Mars starts retrograding, moving backwards, to me this is like media, because media doesn't want to lose market share, doesn't want people to stop watching. Media is going to be looking into the past. So what's happened since January 2020? They're going to, because they know they're losing viewers, they're going to have to start rolling some real news out. And they're going to be like, well, what has been happening in the last 3 years? What really did happen in Wuhan? What really did happen with the cooties and the needlecraft and the rooster boosters? So that's going to get interesting. I think it's going to be a media shitstorm. There's going to be a lot of backpedaling. There's going to be a lot of going back. And it's not like a Mercury retrograde where you just go back and look things over and think about it. It's Mars. So people are going to be pissed off, fighting about it. It'd be pretty interesting for America. Gemini is the 7th house. So another interesting thing too is like, so 7th house is all of your peers, your friends, your relationships. I think, this deep state, this corporate financial deep state, which has been puppeteering the military, the intelligence services, the government, it's been puppeteering these institutions of the U.S. government to be very abusive towards the world. So I think we're going to start losing allies. Like, I think countries are going to say, yeah, fuck this whole NATO thing. Like, we're out. NATO's going to start breaking, I think. So basically America's losing friends, or friends are even potentially becoming enemies. So, and that's encouraging because this whole, America's global empire, this shit has to stop. So let's look at some leaders now. So, alright, we've got Mr. Biden. If you don't get high off all this political name calling and squabbling, the guy's got very significant dementia. I think he's on as many or more drugs than JFK. I think he's getting injected all day with, probably amphetamines and God knows what, just to keep him talking, keep him awake, keep him lucid. It's widely rumored that, when you have these international summits, he's often late because they have to wait for his drugs to kick in. If Greta Thunberg is a case of child abuse, Biden's elder abuse. Because they took this 80-year-old man who's been having like brain aneurysm surgery since the 1980s. He's got dementia. They've set him up to be this puppet president. I mean, all presidents are puppets, but I don't think we've had one with dementia like this since Ronald Reagan. So, how does this Mars retrograde affect Mr. Biden? Well, he has it. Let me see, Gemini. So there's a few ways to do this. If you're doing like if you start as houses from the ascendant degree, it's actually taking place in his 7th house, which, Mars retrograde in the 7th house deals with your enemies. If you're just going to do, a full sign for each house, regardless of ascendant degrees, then it's taking place in his 8th. 8th house is sudden illnesses, sudden ups and downs, sudden injuries, hospitalizations. This could send him to the hospital and incapacitate him at the very least. So, I don't wish that on him, but the guy's not doing well. Like I said, it's like you go out, you see dark clouds, and it's like, I think it's going to rain and thunder. It's very matter of fact. It's very dispassionate. Now, while we're on the subject of him, if you look at this eclipse, it's in his 12th house. 12th house deals with hospitals. It deals with isolation. So around this time, because the eclipse is the 25th, the Mars retrograde is the 30th, around this time, he can end up isolated in a hospital and incapacitated. So, You know, and yeah, the degree of K2 during the eclipse is 19 degrees of Libra. His natal Mars is 19 degrees of Libra. So basically K2 is going to swallow and consume his energy and vitality, which is his natal Mars. That's really interesting. Let's go on to Miss Kamala Harris.
Fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
So she has, her ascendant degree is 1 degree of Gemini, and her Rahu also sits there. So yeah, Mars is basically attacking her Rahu. Rahu is, if you want to know more about Rahu, book a reading with me. It's really interesting. Rahu, wherever it sits, it's what you want out of this life. It's all the goals and the aspirations that you were born with that will give you your utmost fulfillment in your life. K2, that's like your conquered territory. That's what you mastered in past lives. You're good at it, but you're really not interested in it. So Rahu is all of what you came here to do, what you're obsessive about, what you want the most. So Mars is retrograding on that. So, you know, if Mars was, say, direct conjunct her natal Rahu, and like, let's say it was on the same day the sun was there, that'd be a huge shot in the ass for her. That would like send her off like a shot. She'd have this amazing presidency, you know, when she took over for Mr. Biden, but Mars is retrograde. It's going backwards, and it's like, whoa, you got some explaining to do. You got some things you gotta fix. You're gonna have to clear some stuff up here. She'll just, and you know, she'll be attacked by her own party, like I said, by the media. And she may not be the president for long. I think she'll be physically safe, but I think it's a matter of disgrace. It's a matter of getting in trouble. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. Now what else? Oh yeah. For her, that eclipse takes place, Libra, it's her 5th house. 5th house, it's your fun, it's your fulfillment, it's, you know, it's like your ease and your ability to feel good, because 5th house, original ruler is Leo, ruled by the sun. She's not going to be having fun and feeling good. 5th house stands for the performance art of politics. It's your ability to play your role, play your part, and to be a good actor. All politicians are actors. They're actors on a stage. They're motion picture actors. So, and incidentally, their K2, it'll be within 4 degrees of our Neptune. So Neptune is like, it's your spirituality, it's your intuition. But it's also like your ability to potentially deceive when it's out of balance. So people may not be fooled by her anymore. I don't think she was really doing a great job at fooling anyone, but I mean, she was fooled by people who were well trained by basically dysfunctional relationships they grew up around. You know, they were like, well, it's better than Trump. And it's like, well, you're making decisions from fear when you're saying that. And you're not going to be capable of picking a good replacement. Not that the election matters anyway. It's an opinion poll. And the whole thing gets tallied up by the AP's, the Associated Press's computer in Manhattan. The counties total them. They send in the totals. AP does the whole thing. AP is a private media company. So look it up. That computer's been tallying the election since the 60s. So yeah, she's got some rough stuff going on. Okay, and then Mr. Xi Jinping, ostensibly he's the absolute ruler of China. He's got a deep state behind him. So two ways to look at it with him. Damn good chance he doesn't have, an accurate birth time that's known. He might not have even given an accurate birthday, because I think world leaders who know the value of divination and astrology and all that stuff, they're not going to give you the birthday. So, but even if you give a false birthday unconsciously, you're going to give a birthday that's going to reveal basically your essence, because in the spirit world you can't lie, you can't cheat, you can't manipulate. So we can still get a good read on him. So what we would do with Mr. Xi Jinping, you would do two things. You look at his chart with the moon in the ascendant house, or with the sun in the ascendant house. So if you do it with the moon in the ascendant house, it's moon in Cancer conjunct K2. So it's like moon conjunct K2, that's an interesting place to be, because it basically means you're mindless. And it's not everybody who's born with a moon in K2 conjunct, but it's got that potential. It's like the potential where you don't think, like you just do. K2 can be like very religiously fundamentalist, so it can make you an extreme ideologue too. So like a rabid religious fundamentalist, a rabid socialist, a rabid communist, a rabid supremacist of whatever type. All these people, when you're dealing with Nazism, communism, socialism, religious fundamentalism, scientific fundamentalism, these people have savior complexes because they're frightened, they feel scared in the world, they don't like risk, and they want to be saved. And because they're questing after somebody to save them, they think they're more enlightened than most people. So then they turn around and think they can save other people. So all the worst things in the world are done by people who think they're saving somebody. So it's like the Crusades, the Inquisitions, the witch trials, the Holocaust, the communist purges and the Gulag system. It's all people who think they're doing something good and saving people. And what they all have in common is they're selfless. And selflessness is very dangerous. You need to have a self so that you can basically use your head and ask questions when somebody tells you to do something. So he may be like a very robotic wind-up toy for the Chinese deep state, potentially. So, with that said, with the moon conjunct K2 in the ascendant, he's got a sun at 0 degrees Gemini in his 12th house. So 12th house is losses, setbacks. It's also isolated places in foreign lands. So having his natal sun conjunct the stationing and retrograding Mars, that can mean major disruptions and setbacks to dealings he has in foreign lands. So it's the communist Chinese Empire's stealthy takeover of Europe, of Sri Lanka. They do stuff like that in Southeast Asia, and they're trying to do it to America. And he's working together with politicians here, again, with the hysteria over the cooties and the needlecraft and the rooster booster. So yeah, I see him suffering losses, especially losses in foreign lands, if you put his moon in the ascendant. If you put the sun in the ascendant, that's him and his ego and his persona. he's going to have major setbacks. He's not going to get what he wants. I think these people have all been colluding. I think the media creates such hysteria about Russia and about Trump and Russia because they don't want you looking at China, and they don't want you looking at politicians from both parties and leaders and pretty much all Fortune 500 companies and major banks who are colluding with the Chinese communists. So, yeah, these people's games could blow up in their faces. I certainly hope they do. So that's a long one. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be sending more your way. Have a nice one.